I've been around for a while, for a few months, and I think those few months have helped me to appreciate the context in which our country's security is operating at the moment. The Ministry of Interior and National Administration entails at the moment the State Department for Internal Security and National Administration, the State Department of Internal Security and National Administration is headed by the Principal Secretary, Dr. Molo, and other senior officers who serve with him. We also have a second State Department, which is the State Department of Immigration and Citizen Services, which is headed by Principal Secretary, Professor Ambassador Julius Bitok. And then we have a third State Department, which is the State Department for Correctional Services, headed by PS Miremodoni and other colleagues there. And then we have a fourth, almost department now, by virtue of Executive Order number 1 of 2023, the National Police Service. The President decided to give greater autonomy to the National Police Service so that it is not controlled by the Office of the President. Because really, Minister of Interior is basically Office of the President, is his office. He decided that the National Police Service should have a separate budget, separate accounting officer. So he appointed an officer, an accounting officer, Vanessa Lal, who is the accounting officer of the National Police Service, works together with the IG to make sure that the police money budget operations are independent and they are not controlled from the Office of the President. Beyond that, we have a number of other agencies that fall under our ministry in terms of policy issues. Some of them are independent institutions, but they are still, we give policy support and guidance to those independent institutions. That includes the National Police Service itself. It includes IPOA. I can see my colleague Anne McCory is here. We have other agencies like the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, NCIC. Those are independent institutions under the Ministry of Interior. And then we have other units, boards, agencies, including NACADA, because of drugs and alcohol control, NACADA. We have other agencies like the Firearms Licensing Bureau and so forth and so on. And the Private Security Regulatory Authority is also an agency which is under the Ministry of Interior, and so forth. We have the National Registration Bureau. We have the Civil Registry Services. We have Department of Immigration. We have Correctional Services, which includes the Kenya Prison Service, and so forth and so on. So that is the broad scope of the Ministry of Interior, the National Administration. As I have said, I came to office at a time when we had a few challenges which continue to exist, even as we speak, in the sector, in the security sector. And at that time, Nairobi, the crime rate in Nairobi was extremely high. Petty crime, violent crime, gang crime, Nairobi was degenerating to something else. And for us, that was our first priority because Nairobi is the capital city of our country. Nairobi is a regional hub. It is a diplomatic hosting city like no other in the developing world. Apart from New York and Geneva, there is no other station on earth with the kind of concentration and level of presence of diplomatic missions and international organizations than Nairobi. And according to the UN order of priority, outside New York and Geneva, it is Nairobi. So we had to do whatever was necessary to make sure that we retain normalcy. And at the risk of blowing my own trumpet or the trumpet of the ministry, we did our best, and I want to commend the National Police Service, the Inspector General, and the entire National Police Service Command because of the work that we've done around that area. The problem was also, the urban crime problem was also spilling over to other urban centers, including Nakuru and a few others. But that surge of urban crime has been brought under control, completely under control. We have small issues which we are addressing at the moment around Kasarani area and that Roysambu area, and I have already had discussions with the command of the National Police Service, and we are working to seal any gaps because we would not like a resurgence of these robberies and people being accosted and knifed and, in daytime, early morning, evening. So we are in total control of that. We, of course, changed the command in Nairobi. We are even making further changes to make sure that we keep our city, our capital city, and other urban centers safe for our people and all the other people who find themselves in our country, because image is everything. So I'm happy with that, except for the little issue in the last 2 weeks around the places I've mentioned. In fact, even this morning I've dealt with a matter that is touching on that general area of a young man who is alleged to have been killed in mysterious ways in that general area. And we are on it. I have discussed with the Director of Criminal Investigations to take up that matter and to send the homicide unit from the headquarters to go and take over that matter, because the complainants believe that perhaps 1 or 2 officers could have denied them the kind of justice or attention they would have required as victims of crime. So we are working hard, and sometimes you don't see these things in the media because media will tell you maybe the statement I gave yesterday about my predecessor, the former Minister for Interior. It is because it was the measures that I was saying we took to make sure that he is treated with dignity. Sometimes many people will think we are doing that because he was a former minister. It is the policy of this administration to make sure that the criminal justice system, 1, is not politicized. 2, it treats even suspects and accused persons and persons who find themselves on the wrong side of the law, it treats them with dignity and allows the justice system to pronounce the appropriate punishments without harassing people. And we are not doing this for a special class of people. We are doing for every Kenyan. And therefore, under this administration, we will not be seeing police officers going to people's homes at night to disturb families, to frog march suspects when they are half dressed, in front of their spouses and kids. And I have said yesterday, and I want to repeat it, as a policy of this government, National Police Service and all the other institutions in the security sector must strive to achieve the best international standards of law enforcement and administration of justice. If someone has not committed a violent, cognizable offense, and that person does not pose an imminent danger to either the officers arresting that person or to members of the public, why would you go and dramatize the arrest of that person in the middle of the street? Why would you raid them at night when they are sleeping with their families? Just ask them to come to the police station, and you can even have a discussion when they are available, because maybe you want to take a statement and you cannot, unless really it's a specific crime that requires a bit of strictures. If it's somebody is accused of these non-cognizable crimes, treat them humanely, let justice be done, let them have their lawyers, let them record their statement, and so forth and so on. And it is also the policy of this administration to respect all the institutions established under our constitution and under the law, all of them without exception, and to respect the decisional independence of institutions. The policy of this administration is to respect the institutional independence of all constitutional and legal institutions. But it's also the policy of this administration to ensure that all constitutional and legal institutions work within the law and promote the rule of law. Because again, if left on their own, that independence can itself be a threat to the rule of law and a threat to our democracy and our constitutional order. I am saying this because I have seen some debates going on about how far independent institutions should, what can they do, what can they not do. Dependent institutions are independent, one, for decisional purposes. The decision of a judge, the decision of a police officer, a police commander, the decision of an independent commission, that decision cannot be interfered with by any person. They are also independent operationally, for purposes of operational efficiency. But those independent institutions also are institutions under the Constitution, and therefore must comply with the Constitution, and that independence is subordinate to the constitutional order. And if we understood that, we will not have these unnecessary and petty institutional confrontations in the public when the public is watching, senior members of various arms of government trying to show might and push, elbow each other and pretend and show us if they are more important than the others. Every arm of government, every institution is as important as the other one. And this independence is just for decisions, for operations, for autonomy in your budget and finances and those kind of things. And therefore there is need for synergy between independent institutions and other arms of government, and that is what will make our country a great democracy. Having said that, I just wanted to emphasize that we are not only profiling cases of senior people, even small people like the young boy who is said to have been murdered mysteriously, which I have discussed with the DCI this morning, and action has been taken. I want to thank the DCI for very professional and quick action, because that matter now will be taken over by the homicide unit from the DCI headquarters, which is dispassionate from the local issues in case there was any collusion. And while at that, let me say as follows. It is the policy of this administration to make sure that all officers of government exercising their mandate in accordance with the law will be protected and defended by the government. At the same time, all officers of government who misuse the freedoms, the privileges of office to harass or to hurt other people, the government will, on behalf of the complaining public, isolate such officers, punish them, and deal with them in a manner that serves as an example. That when you are given power, that power is to support the country's democratic and constitutional order. It is not the power to hurt people. So those are two sides of the same coin. Now, other than that, we had security challenges. Terrorism, in our view, continues to be an existential threat to our country's democratic existence. We have managed to keep terrorists at bay, and we haven't had any major incident lately. But I want to confirm to you, Mr. Chairman and members, that we have thwarted numerous serious attempts by terrorists to hurt us. And I want to pay homage and applaud our officers, especially security officers who are helping the country in the counter-terrorism and other complex crimes effort. The kind of sacrifices that they have made, we as a country can never pay them. Some of them have lost their lives in the process of trying to deter, detect, and thwart terror. And you know, many of these things are never reported, they are never, many people will never get to know. And therefore, even as the public looks at what has not been done by our officers, there is a story that needs to be told. That while we could be having problems within our various agencies, in terms of institutional efficiency, there are officers, a critical mass of officers, sons and daughters of this country who have decided to give their all to make sure that our country is safe and the rest of us can go home and sleep, our children can go to school. That cadre, that section of officers helping us with counter-terrorism has done a fantastic job. So we remain, Mr. Chairman, we remain alert daily to make sure that these bad people don't succeed. And you know, it takes one successful strike to cause enough pain to the country. Numerous success stories. So we are on top of things there. There are things that needs to be done there, and maybe in another forum, Mr. Chairman, which will be an in-camera. I'll ask for an in-camera engagement with you as elected representatives of the people. There are things I cannot say on media. As long as I'm your security minister, there are things that I cannot say on media because they cannot be said. But we need to strengthen a few things there and make sure that we support our teams and our officers who are helping us keep this country safe. The cost of keeping us safe has been quite significant. Last year, on 16th of December, we held a commemoration, the annual commemoration of to remember officers in the National Police Service who have lost their lives in the line of duty. Last year alone, 57 officers lost their lives while defending fellow citizens. And you should have an opportunity, and I'm sorry, Chairman, I think we discussed this the other time, some of these events, we need representation of the security committees from both houses of parliament to come and be with us so that you can appreciate some of the things we say. If you look at some of the families, the widows that have been left by very young officers who have died in the line of duty, 24 years, 30, 28 years, and it's so painful. We also have other officers who have been injured permanently impaired as they do these things. So there are things we will need to tighten up there in terms of supporting them and their families, and also in terms of helping the public to understand the contribution that our officers make. Then there is the matter of these criminals who have terrorized our country for a long time in most parts of northern Rift Valley and the upper eastern counties of Marsabit and Isiolo. The bandits who started as cultural thieves, thieves of livestock for cultural reasons, because from the literature and the reports available initially, it started as a practice influenced by the cultural pride in robbing another community of livestock so that you can have more livestock, and the livestock is golden and it's used even in cultural practices, including payment of dowry and things like those. Over time, that cultural aspect has been lost. It was replaced by commerce and politics and so forth and so on. So today what we are looking at in that part of the country is not a cultural practice. I am convinced that unless we stop this nonsense now, what is happening in these counties that we have gazetted as disturbed as dangerous will mutate to something else, greater than the business and the money-making things that people think that it's all about. It will be something else. And as a country, it might be a bit costly to arrest the situation if it escalates beyond where we are at the moment. I have studied what other countries have gone through, Mr. Chairman, and I can tell you without any fear of contradiction that unless we stop the killings that are happening now in the name of banditry, the country will pay dearly in the long term. And there are countries which have had that kind of experience. We should not add in that list. We should not become part of that list of countries that has gone that direction. So what is likely to happen if this thing is left this way and is handled in the way we've handled it in the past, and I'm not blaming any particular administration. I'm just saying as a nation, we should have acted earlier. But as they say, better late than never. other factors will come into play, and the political and commercial angles that we are now harping will be swallowed and consumed by some superior objective and ideology. It might even acquire international dimensions. So we have a real problem. It's not a small matter. We have gazetted parts of 6 counties which we consider disturbed and dangerous. We started an operation on 13th of February. Over the last 3 weeks, Honorable Chair, members, we have been able to deploy adequately both personnel and equipment. They are on the ground. We may need to upscale that process, but at the moment our concern is not about the numbers in terms of deployment. We are okay for now, but if need be, this country has enough security officers to match any threat that the country faces. I have been instructed by His Excellency the President to deploy all the available resources that this country has to make sure that the operation that we are having succeeds. I want to assure you, Honorable Chair and members, the operation will succeed. And I want to assure the people of Kenya that they should not be distracted by the small maneuvers and antics that the criminals are displaying. These are the last tricks of people who have been used to impunity. They will not do anything different like that than what they are doing. Yes. And therefore, we must make banditry part of the history of Kenya. And I want to look at Kenyans in the eye and assure them this administration will end banditry. I also want to look at Kenyans in the eye and assure them that we will succeed against these murderers who have shed so much innocent blood of children, of innocent people who are just hustling to eke a living for their families, dispossessed so many families, made them destitute, made them leave their homes. We will defeat the criminals. I am appealing for national solidarity. All stakeholders, all agencies, every citizen, every friend of Kenya to stand on the side of the victims of this heinous crime. I'm saying that because I know our democracy is a very vibrant democracy. And very soon you're going to have certain discussions will come into play in a short while. And it's okay, we are a constitutional democracy. The security we are providing it in accordance with the Constitution. And that is my business as minister, to make sure the Constitution is followed. The laws of our country are followed. Because unlike in the past, all these other operations of this nature were done under the retired Constitution, including the last one in Mount Elgon, where the military was involved. But this particular operation is being done by one of the most progressive constitutions in the world, in terms of what our officers can do, But I want to invite the country to reflect on the kind of pain and the kind of disadvantage these criminals have caused and also reflect on what is done in the most advanced democracies when a crisis of this magnitude visits a nation. I am going to hear a lot of discussions. So you'll allow me, I beseech you, you'll allow me to close my eyes and ears and deliver northern Kenya from the hands and claws of terrorist groups, because these bandits are nothing but terrorists. What they were lacking is an ideology. It's now building up. The ideology, they had all the other ingredients except the ideology, why they are doing that, and now it's building up. So, I am not stifling debate, and I don't even have the capacity anyway to do it. And the media say what they want to say. The oversight institutions, they have their mandate. But if you ask me, as your Minister for Security, what faces us in those areas is at the heart of the survival of Kenya. Maybe not in the immediate, but if we let that nonsense continue, this country 20, 30 years today might find it impossible to exist. There will be total breakdown of law and order. So, Chair, between this afternoon and tomorrow morning, I'll be announcing very drastic measures. And I will not announce them from Naivasha or from Nairobi. I'll announce them from the combat zone. Very drastic measures. So let the other things continue. Give me the job to deliver what Abin has to deliver. Just make sure we rid this place of dangerous criminals. They are killing people as we speak. We are here in a workshop. They are killing people. I get messages every day. On the road here between Nairobi, somebody has died. An innocent Kenyan, an innocent soul, committed no crime, and that person is a voter who elected you, some of you here who are seated here, who elected President William Ruto, by whose election today I'm Minister for Security. So we need just to make a decision, the kind of country we need to have. So I'll be announcing measures, and this is just phase 2. As I said, Honorable Chair, we will stay there forever. The operation can end, but the presence of security in their numbers is going to stay there for good. Why do we pay? Why do taxpayers pay security officers? Is it not to defend and protect them? So we'll stay there. And the maneuvers these criminals, these terrorists are doing, they think, it's the usual thing, you come there, operation 3-4 months, then you go back to Nairobi and we continue. And we know all the tricks they are using, including mixing with innocent people, children, women, to use them as human shields. And all those things. So let me not say much. But phase 2 of the operation starts between today night and tomorrow morning. And we'll announce new measures. We'll bring down all threats. And we'll dismantle all the networks that has caused us this pain for so many years. I have told my friends in the media, there's media freedom, and the Constitution talks about the right to media, and all those things are there. But the same constitution talks about certain limitations in Article 24 in the interest of certain national objectives which are legitimate in a democratic society. So that is the space I operate from. Other than that, Chair, because I really wanted to assure you and your team, we will spare no effort. I did my commitment during vetting. I repeat that commitment. It doesn't matter how long it takes. We will end that problem, and we'll end it in such a way that it will never recur again. Our children and our grandchildren will be reading that there was a time when banditry disturbed very many people and caused a lot of deaths in some parts of Kenya. Honorable Chair and members, we have other security issues in the country. We have not removed our eyes from the other parts of the country and other threats. We are alert, 360 degrees, to make sure that criminals elsewhere don't take advantage of the ongoing operation in one part of the country to hurt us in another part of the country, maybe in a different way. We are alive to the fact that there are other threats, and we are tackling them, including threats posed by drugs and psychotropic substances, which are poisoning our young people and reducing the young generation into zombies and useless people who cannot be citizens of tomorrow. I am afraid of our children today below 25 out of 10. I am afraid a significant number, more than half of them, perhaps 7, 8, are not ready to take over the responsibilities of building this nation. Future senators, members of parliament, future police officers, teachers and farmers, I am not convinced. And it's drugs, toxic substances that are available that have ruined our children. And every home today in our country is weeping because of a child who has just destroyed their lives. So we are keeping an eye on this, our borders, and all the other security threats, urban crime, rural crime. Our eyes are on the ball. But Honorable Chair, other than that, as I've said, we have immigration services, which are also security services. And therefore, we want to modernize our immigration and citizen services. We believe there is room for improvement. We believe there is room for improvement even within our National Police Service. And already you are aware the task force is helping us to generate the agenda for reform. For us, one priority areas for us in this administration is institutional reforms in the security sector. The National Police Service, independent institutions within the security sector, Kenya Prison Service, etc., etc. And the task force is helping us with that, which is chaired by an eminent Kenyan, the retired Chief Justice David Maraga, and I think they are doing a good job. So immigration services is an area that we think we need to reform. When I do my next public accountability statement, which I have decided to be doing every 3 months without being asked to do it, I'll be reporting the kind of progress we want to make there, because a Kenyan should know how long it should take to get a passport, ID, how they will be served, how decisions will be made, how long it will take. It is primitive to have citizens, taxpayers queuing all the way across the highway at Nyayo House, and they come at 5 a.m. You know, only a
It's not right. It is wrong. We should treat the people who pay taxes with dignity. They should have appointments, and those appointments must be honored. And they should not come to just hang around there and be harassed by orderlies and being shoved around. It's wrong. They must come respectively. If there is a small waiting of 5 minutes, that's okay, something like that. So we will develop service charters and improve the services in immigration, national registration of persons. The other day I was in Moyale, and the elders there are telling us some of our children applied for IDs when they are 18, now they are 21, 3 years. Vetting this, vetting that. Which country on earth treats its citizens like that? It is wrong. It should be standard for the whole country. If you are applying for ID, whatever the process, 21 days maximum, you have your ID, inclusive of vetting. Meaning where there is no vetting, you should get it on the same day. So we are looking at institutional reforms. We are looking at also, some of it will require legislative support. We want to strengthen GAO, the National Government Administration officers. That GAO is a big asset for the country's development. It may have been misused in the past to do wrong things. And you've heard His Excellency the President repeatedly say he doesn't wish the security sector to be politicized, or members of either the National Police Service or GAO to be used to do politics. He says he doesn't want them even to do his own politics, because he has his own lieutenants of elected leaders who are elected under his party, including, I think, the chairman, if I remember well, and the vice chair. Those are senators from his arm. They can know how to help him do politics. The other person who also is involved in national politics has also their people. So we cannot have, in a modern country, public officers who are supposed to serve all Kenyans in a neutral and impartial manner getting involved in partisan politics. We will destroy our country. We will destroy our country because these are people some of them are like the police. These are armed people. They have a lot of power which can be misused to hurt citizens, and politics is something that is in the Constitution. It's not unlawful. Let politicians engage each other, government side, opposition side, but within the law, and there are teams, political teams, to perpetuate that democracy. So the same way the President has asked that all officers stay away from politics and should not be used to pursue any politics. Even at lower levels, senators, governors, I'm also asking them, and MPs, don't involve my officers in your political battles with your opponents. Don't start telling the OCS, this one did not vote for me, arrest him. No. We don't arrest people who don't vote for a particular person. That's not an offense. We arrest people who commit crimes. So, institutional reforms. GAO is a priority. We need to empower especially the lower cadre, the ACCs. I think the ACCs needs a bit of support in terms, and then the Nyumba Kumi. We need to see how Nyumba Kumi can be strengthened, and the village elders, to make sure that we even support them and make sure that their contribution to national security and matters development are appreciated. So that is the scope of our work. I have said numerous times, Chair, we need support with the police equipment modernization program, which was doing very well, but these days the money has depleted completely, and some of our equipment require upgrading and modernization. So may I say this, Chair, because I actually didn't know even what you wanted me to say, but let me say that the country is safe. Let me also say that we have quite a number of challenges, but they are surmountable. And finally, let me say that we will require your support as elected leaders and representatives of the people to develop policies, legislation that can help us strengthen. I've already pointed out at a few, that Nyumba Kumi elders area, the area of Ngao, how we can make it a little more responsive to modern needs of our society. We want also to look at the service charters. Those are policy. Right now, I think we've just finalized the prisons policy, but we also want to develop our policy in other sectors, so that, for example, when somebody is accused of a crime, there should be a policy and some kind of expected procedure that must be followed, so that we don't treat people differently. So we will be developing even service charters to help people know when they go to seek services from a chief, how long will it take for a decision to be made? How, there must be something, and how they interact with that public officer and what they can expect, and so forth and so on. I want to thank you for your time. I'm available for another half an hour maximum, and then you allow me to go and change and do the other bit. Thank you, Chairman. I'm so honored to have addressed you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.